Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tat Padam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. So we're continuing to make our way through the second chapter, aren't we? We're still on second chapter, aren't we?
Yes.
Yes. And the main idea that he's been addressing in a rather complicated, I would say complicated, in a very thorough way, is this whole Vedantic notion of perception. So to put it in a larger frame, our three big questions: who am I? What is this world? How has it come about? So he's dealing with that second question. The world is not material, separate from me, but it is nothing but consciousness appearing as name and form. And there are subtle dimensions of it all the way down to the gross. All right, what verse are we on?
45.
45. Make sure we're in the second chapter.
Sadbuddhir api nasti mastvasya swaprabhavatah nirmaska tvasakshitvat sanmatram sugumam nrinam. Objection. The idea of existence is also absent in the state of quiescence. Reply. It does not matter. Brahman is self-revealing and the witness of the tranquil mind. It can be easily perceived by men inasmuch as it is the witness of the cessation of all mentations.
So he's arguing with what we call the Shunyavadins, a particular school of Buddhism, which we call the scholiasts of the void, who posit that consciousness itself is impermanent. And here what Vidyaranya is saying is, even the quiet mind, wherein the ego sense disappears, if it's absolutely quiet, even the world disappears. But I am the witness of the presence and the absence of thought. Cannot deny yourself. Next verse.
Mano jrimbhanarahitye yatha sakshi nirakulah maya jrimbhanata purvam sattathaiva nirakulam. When the mind is void of all mentations, we experience the witness or obscuring consciousness in its purity as calm and unagitated. Similarly, prior to the functioning of Maya, the existence, Sat, remains remained in its purity as quiescence, calm, and unruffled.
So again, he's drawing a parallel to that state before the Big Bang. Let's not be concerned with it. There's no way to verify it. But in my mind, I can be aware of that ground of being, which is self-evident, but it can illumine a still, quiet, empty mind. Then when the intellect returns, it remembers that experience and goes, oh, no person, it wasn't real. The ego state is ephemeral. Going on.
Jill, he says that when the mind is void of all meditations, we experience the witness or obscuring consciousness. Like, what does he call it? I guess when it's void, then there isn't a mind, right?
I don't know what he means. What's the Sanskrit he's using for consciousness there, for obscuring consciousness? Can you suss it out? I don't think he's dealing with deep sleep.
Yeah. So it's Sakshi is the witness and Nirakulaha. So I guess Nirakulaha.
I don't know what that means. If he means I'm aware of the stuff of mine folded up into its primordial state, that's deep sleep. Now, I'm the witness of it, because in the morning I can awaken and say, oh, I must have slept soundly, I don't remember a thing. Likewise, in moments of meditation, if he means the silent mind, when I'm fully conscious, I'm aware of the presence and the absence of thought. Now, if the mind becomes quiet and the no thingness of the self is not evident, then I still have a vidya there. There's still something that's obscuring. That's the best I can do with it. Let's go on and see if he clears it up.
Nistatva karyagam yasya shaktirmaya agni shaktivad nahi shakti kvachit kaichit buddhyate karyata pura. As the power to burn exists in fire, so the power Maya, which has no existence independent of Brahman and which is inferred by its effect, exists in Brahman. Before the effect appears, the power behind the effect is not directly experienced by anyone anywhere.
Yes. So, this is an important point. We ask the question, where is the locus of Maya? Many people assume, oh, it's in my mind. My mind is where ignorance happens. Yes and no. The locus of Maya is Brahman. Just like if I walk into the bathroom, the nature of the mirror is to reflect images. If I bring out the crystal ball, it is the nature of the crystal ball to have images upside down reflecting to it. So also, it is the nature of Brahman to have its Maya Shakti. Now, my favorite definition of Maya, it's a word to describe how the impossible seems possible. How is it that consciousness, which is one without a second, which is sthita, still, achalam, never moving, never changing, seems to have a world of name and form arising? I don't know. That is a question way above my pay grade. We infer Maya from its effects. I look around and I see a world. I see a world. And part of the nature of that Maya Shakti is the vast majority of the beings in that world. I don't know about elephants and dolphins and things, but at least people. We do not know that we are that birthless, changeless, deathless being. Because of the Maya Shakti of the Lord, we are born into a world thinking I'm the body. Those of us who've had a look at the Hebrew scriptures. So in Genesis, the first book of the Hebrew Bible. So God creates Adam and Eve. And he tells them, don't eat of the tree of knowledge at the center of the garden. Then the serpent tempts Eve. That's a wonderfully interesting image. In most of the ancient world, the serpent is a symbol of wisdom, not evil. Certainly so in Hinduism. So, serpent says, go for it, girl. She eats the apple, she gives it to Adam, he eats the apple. Now, in classic metaphysical symbolism, the female, the yin, represents the subjective, the feeling nature, sometimes the unconscious. The masculine represents the yang, the objective rational mind. So the point is, both of them eat of the apple. Now, this is not the apple of knowledge. It's the apple of the knowledge of good and evil. Oneness. And their eyes were opened. I love this next part. And they saw that they were naked. I'm making this up. That's what the Hebrew Bible says. Meaning, we're born into the world with this paranoid self-obsession. How am I doing? Am I okay? And then, oh, terrible things happen. So Adam and Eve, they create little aprons of fig leaves to hide their genitalia, meaning we censor and cut off our natural expression. And then, anybody remember what happens next? David or Mark, do you remember what the next part of the story is?
Are we to the part where Adam blames Eve? Or is that still coming?
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. They hide in the bushes
Yes.
from God. So we separate ourselves. We cut ourselves off. We start thinking of God out there, judging us, condemning us. And God comes walking in the garden and says, where the hell are you? Did you eat of the fruit I told you not to eat? The girl made me do it. So this has a lot of deep symbolism. Let me give you an example of it today. So my blood sugars are up just a hair. Got on the scale this morning, I've put on 5 pounds. So I said, well, I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to have a maybe fast for the day, not eat too much. So I had a bagel with cream cheese at breakfast. I had a wonderful sweet potato. Then I made a nice dish of pasta for dinner tonight. My rebellious mind does it. Lousy yogi, just a crappy yogi. I'm sure none of you have this problem, do you? That's where the unconscious, the feeling nature has all the seeming control. And the next part of the story is pretty bad. They get tossed out of the garden and they have to work to support themselves from them. Struggle enters into the human condition. It's mythology, but it's more than mythology, it's mystic symbolism. It's about states of consciousness. It's the same idea that Vidyaranya is talking about. We call it original sin in the Catholic Church. Jews talk about it as the story of Adam and Eve. Yogis, we talk about Maya. Same thing. Way to explain this fact that we're born into a condition of spiritual ignorance. Now, as individuals, we can get out. That doesn't make it go away. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is Sheila. I have a quick question.
Sure.
So when Adam and Eve ate the apple, would you say that's similar to eating Maya? Or
The knowledge of good and evil, which is duality. Yes. I and other, yours and mine, good and bad. Yes.
so it was like they were taking the first bite of Maya.
Yes. Before that, they were in a state of innocence, like children are.
Mm. Okay.
If you ever have somebody who has a newborn baby and you gaze into the eyes of the newborn, it's like getting drishtipat from a Mahatma. It'll tune you right up because they're so close to the infinite. Recent arrivals from heaven. Then in time, the veil of ignorance solidifies. All right, next verse.
न सत् वस्तु सत शांति नहीं वन्हे स्वशक्तिता सद्विलक्षणतायां तु शक्ते किं तत्त्वमुच्यताम्. The power of a substance is not the substance itself, as for instance, the power to burn is not the fire itself. Similarly, Maya, which is the power of Brahman, is not Brahman. If power is something other than Brahman, then define its nature.
Is that the objector, or is that a rhetorical question for Vidyaranya?
Yeah, it's probably a rhetorical question.
So, can Brahman be without Maya? Theoretically, yes. At the end of the age, everything goes into the dissolution. Consciousness is not dependent upon Maya. Maya is not consciousness, but it's none other than consciousness. It becomes very simple if we go back to the dream state. Remember what I keep saying, you are the God of your dream. So, Your mind has swapna shakti, dreaming power. So we can say deep sleep is pure Maya Shakti of your mind. Then you dream Vikshepa Shakti, Maya Shakti. You project the dream world. Is the dream world anything other than your mind? No. But when you quit dreaming, what happens to your mind? It's still there. It's that relationless relationship. The mystery of Sankalpa. How things come to be. Sankalpa, wish, will, thought, intention, desire, all those kind of point at it. Sankalpa is the process whereby intention becomes name and form, where thoughts become things. That is the essence of the Maya Shakti of the infinite. Brahman doesn't create the world like a potter creates a pot. The world is imagined, not created. And the point is, on an individual basis, your particular zoo is imagined. And it never touches you. Just like when you wake up in the morning, however vivid the dream was, you are in your bed, safe and sound. Next verse.
शून्यत् वमति चेत् शून्यं मायाकार्यम् इतीरितं न शून्यं नापि सध्यात्य आक्तवत् आतत्वमिहेष्यताम्. If you say the nature of Maya is nothingness, then you contradict yourself in as much as in verse 34, you said that nothing is an effect of Maya, and an effect of a thing cannot be its nature, an effect being posterior to the thing. So you will have to admit that Maya is neither shunyam, non-existence, nor sat, existence, but it is as it is. That is something undefinable by the two terms.
Yes. So how Shankara says it, we can't say Maya exists. We can't say it does not exist, but we can certainly say that it is very powerful. So if you imagine some catastrophe has happened, and then you learn that it was all a mistake, everybody's fine. Did your imagined catastrophe exist or not exist? Well, it certainly didn't exist as an event. Did it exist as a belief, a thought? Well, yeah, but does a thought or a belief actually have existence? It's indefinable. So basically what Vidyaranya is getting at, don't worry about whether Maya is or isn't. Let the logicians hassle this one out. The thing to understand for us as a practice. Take it all lightly. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff. Or as Tejo Mayananda used to say, do you know how to get rid of your worries? Quit worrying. It's all going to work out. And as we get quieter and we surrender, and our egos are not driving so hard, in fact, we find inherent in the Lord's Maya Shakti is tremendous grace, tremendous synchronicity, great beauty. Next verse.
Nasat asanni sadasit adinim kim tvabhutatah tamah sadhyo gatasmasa satvam na swatasya na swatastannishedhanat. This peculiar nature of Maya is corroborated by the Vedic text, which purports that there was neither non-existence nor existence then, that is before creation, but there was darkness, by which is meant Maya. This attribution of existence to darkness or Maya, this attribution of existence to darkness or Maya is due to its association with existence, not by virtue of itself, inasmuch as its existence is denied to it in the just mentioned Vedic passage.
Yes. So in this situation, we talk about existence or non-existence. We're talking about objective phenomena. The glass exists. If I break the glass, it no longer exists. But something there is that's the context for existence and non-existence of things. What causes them to come into being? Maya Shakti. And who illumines the action of Maya and existence and non-existence of all objects. The ground of being, the self. Keep checking out yourself in all situations. Prove or disprove to yourself that space of consciousness is ever changed. You are always safe, and you're not unique. If you're always safe, so is everybody else. Next verse.
Eta eva dvitiyatvam shunyavanna hi ganyate na loke chaitra tachatya jivitam likhyate pratak. Hence, like nothingness, Maya also cannot be a distinct entity in its own right. In the world too, an able man and his ability are not considered two, but one.
Yes. So we can't say that nothingness is a substance. What do you have in the bucket, Jim? Oh, I have nothing in the bucket. Well, may I see the nothing that's in your bucket? Oh, yes. Would you like a scoop of nothing? Hold out your hand. Now you have a scoop of nothing. It's nonsense. Nothing has no existence. Now, listen very carefully. Imagined things appear to have an existence, but it's insubstantial. Let me give you an example. Once upon a time, there was a handsome prince who was the child of a barren woman, who was the wife of a husband who never got married. And the handsome prince got on his horse that had wings, that had no existence. And he flew up to a castle in the sky that wasn't there. And then he fought the dragons that were in the moat that was dry around the castle that wasn't there. Of course, the dragons didn't really exist. And inside, he was able to find the beautiful princess that was never born. Now, if you were able to follow my story, your mind probably created images to go along with the things that I talked about. So not only I could have told you a Grimm's fairy tale, and you could have imagined those things. That has an even more solid existence than the ones I said, a prince who did not exist. So these ideas, do they exist or do they not exist? Can't really answer that question. They're experienced, but they're not substantial. They have no sat. They have no bhava, being. Vidyaranya is thundering just as Gita thunders it. Only the self has existence and being. Everything else, without exception, is imagination. Now again, you get a phone call, oh, my brother's been in an automobile accident. Ah! And then you find out, oh no, it was a mistake. Nothing happened. What happened to the brother in the automobile accident? Never existed. But it sure was powerful. Made me feel all sorts of things. Why? Because I thought it was real. That's my problem with this world. Next verse.
Shaktyadikye jivitam chetva Shaktaya dikyate jivitam chedavadhate ritikrat na shakti kim tu tatkaya yudkrishnadikam tatha. If it is argued that increase in one's power leads to the prolongation of their life, we counter it by saying that the prolongation is not the result of power, but the effect thereof, such as war, agriculture, etc.
So here, the idea that he's been driving at is one's power or something's power separate from or different from the thing itself. Well, kind of yes, kind of no. So if a person has done a lot of pranayama, a lot of kriya, they can prolong their life through the shakti that they develop. But is that who they are? No. Is it separate from who they are? Point here is the Lord's Maya Shakti. We infer it from its results, the phenomenal world. It shouldn't be there. It's powerful, but not real. All right, next verse.
Sarvatha shaktimatrasya na prithak ganana kvachit shakti karyam tu naivasti dvitiyam shakyate katham. Power is now here considered to be independent of its substratum. Before creation, no effects of power existed. What grounds are there for assuming a duality?
Yes. So if we try to separate the Lord's Maya Shakti from the Lord, can the Lord's Maya Shakti be there before creation? No. So if I were to die this evening, my dream does not go on without me. It's not separate from me. Kuni comes by tomorrow. Oh, Jim died last night. Oh, yes, but he has all these dreams in his dresser. I think I'll take some of them home. No. The Swapna Shakti is not separate from the Swapner himself, the dreamer. Likewise, the Lord's Maya Shakti is just inherent. It's not something separate. Next verse.
Nakrit sam brahma vritti sa shakti kinve kadeshavak ghata shaktir yatha bhumau snigdha mrigdhaiva vartate. Power does not operate in the whole of Brahman, but only in a part of it. Earth's power of producing pots is not seen in all earth, but in a portion or mode of earth, or a mode of earth only. That is, in clay, earth mixed with water.
So, the philosophical point that he's dealing with here, this is a little arcane. What is the difference between pantheism and panentheism? Pantheism. God is throughout the whole world. Wonderful idea. Is Vedanta pantheistic? No. It is panentheistic. God is throughout the entire world, but God is way bigger than the phenomenon. So in Gita, Krishna says, in one small portion, teeny, tiny portion of my infinite being. It's so small you can barely see it. is the whole universe. Just like if I have a clay pot, it's not all the earth of the world. So the idea, the universe is infinite, but the infinitude of Brahman is infinitely more than the infinitude of the universe. Next verse.
पादोस्य सर्वभूतानि त्रिपादस्ते स्वयं प्रभः इत्येक देशवृत्तित्वं मायायो वदति श्रुतिः. The Shruti says creation is only a quarter of Brahman. The other 3/4 are self-revealing, that is not dependent on Maya's effects for its revelation. Thus, does the Shruti say Maya covers but a part of Brahman?
So he's footnoting it here. And quarter here doesn't mean 1/4. It just means a part. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. So looking to your direct experience, if you have a particular thought, gee, I'm going to have ice cream after class tonight, that only takes up a small portion of your awareness. How big are you? Vast. Next verse.
Vishtabhya hamidam kritsa ekanshena sthito jagat iti krishnurjunayaha jagat dvekad adeshatam. In the Gita, Sri Krishna says to Arjuna, the world is sustained by a part of mind, indicating that the world is sustained by a part of the Lord.
So he's quoting the same section that I was alluding to again. So Krishna again says, in a small portion of my infinite being, the whole universe is sustained. Going on. These are footnotes.
Sabhumim vishvato kritva yatishtha drishangulam vikaravarti chatrasti shruti sutra kritorvachah. The Shruti supports the same view. Quote, the Supreme Spirit pervading the world on every side, yet extends 10 fingers beyond it, end quote. In the sutras, too, Brahman is declared to transcend the world of differences.
Yes. So consciousness is infinite. The universe is infinite. But consciousness is a whole lot bigger, infinite than the universe. And those of us who study mathematics know there are different sizes of infinity. For example, the number of real numbers is infinite. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, going on. But then there's all the unreal numbers that are in between each one. There's an infinite number of unreal numbers between 1 and 2, and between 2 and 3. So the infinite number of unreal numbers is a bigger infinity than the infinite number of real numbers. Now, my mind can't wrap my head around that. I thought infinity by definition just. But this, in essence, is what the scriptures say. Consciousness is a whole lot bigger. It's little. You are that. It's also next verse.
Niranshepyam shamaropya kritsnereshe veti pritchatah tadbhasha yotaram brute shruti shrotri hitaishani. Shruti, the well-wisher of the questioner, being asked whether Maya pervades the whole or part of Brahman, speaks of the partless as having parts in order to explain the non-dual nature of Brahman by giving illustrations.
I don't know what part of Shruti to which he's referring, so I can't really address this particular verse. I'm sorry. Going on.
Sattatvam ashrita shakti kalpayet sati viktriyaha varna bhittigata bhittao chitram nana vidham tatha. With Brahman as its basis, Maya creates the various objects of the world, just as a variety of pictures are drawn on a wall by the use of different colors.
Yes. So, of course, we can use metaphors like virtual realities and movies. Back in ancient times, they would use painting, a mural on a wall. So there's the background. And then you make a fresco, paint on the wall with various colors. It is the wall itself appearing as the various images on it. Likewise, it is consciousness itself that appears as the world of name and form. So I can paint a picture that's a beautiful landscape with maybe two lovers on the lawn overlooking a river holding hands. Or I can paint a terrible battle scene where people are getting murdered and hacked to pieces. The wall doesn't care. Simply is. And it is not changed by the images on it. Just like you are not touched or changed by a pleasant dream or a nightmare. Next verse.
Adhyo vikara akasha sovakasha swarupuvan akasho stiti sattattvam akashe yanugacchati. The first modification of Maya is akasha. Its nature is space. That is, it gives room to things to exist and expand. Akasha derives its existence from Brahman, its substratum.
Yes. So the first manifestation of Maya is space. Again, if we go to the dream, actually, I'm going to push back on Vidyaranya. I would say the first manifestation is the idea of an individual knower. Then comes space, in which I put stuff. So in the dream, first of all, there's got to be the dream context, the envelope in which the dream takes place. Next verse.
Eka swabhavam sattattvam akasho dvisvabhavakaha navakasha sati vyomi sa. Chashopi dvayam sthitam. The nature of Brahman is existence only. Brahman is spaceless, but Akasha has both space and existence as its nature.
So the Sat, the existence of Brahman, will pervade all these various levels of manifestation as they grossify. They borrow the existence of Brahman. So frequently I will use the term Chidakasha, the space of pure awareness. That's different than physical space. Although physical space is nothing but Brahman. Next.
Yada pratidhvanir vyogno guno nasau satikshate vyogni dvo sadhvani tena sadekam dvigunam vyat. Akasha also has the property of conveying or communicating sound, which Brahman does not have. Thus, Akasha has two properties, sound and existence, whereas Brahman has only one existence.
Okay, that's cool. So when I look behind my eyes and notice the knower, there's no phenomena. There's no knowing of phenomena. There's nothing. Yet it has existence. It's sentient. But when peeping outward, space is created, then comes the sense of hearing. Next one.
Ya Shakti kalpaye dvyoyam sa sadvyom norabhinnatam apadhya dharma dharmitvam vyatya yena vakalpaye. The same Shakti power, that is Maya, which has conjured up Akasha, is the real entity. Has conjured up Akasha in the real entity. Sat, or existence, has also produced the difference between them, as of substance and property, in the reverse way, after having shown their identity.
So what he's talking about here is this initial fundamental forking. I cognize stuff. That first subject-object relationship. Now, what he's driving at, to keep it simple, this wonderful mantra from Ch.2 that I love so much, Sarvam Kalvidam Dhamma, Sarvam Idam, all this, Kalu, verily, is nothing but Brahman. We don't need to get too wrapped up into the subtle levels of the way in which manifestation happens. If you have an interest in it, groovy, but it's not essential to get caught up in it. It's not essential at all. What's essential is to stay with the meditation. Dhamma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman alone is real. The phenomenal world is illusory. It's dreamlike. What I'm seeing as a world of name and form is really just Brahman. There's shape shifting going on, but the stuff doesn't change. Next verse.
Sato vyomatvamapannam vyomna sattamna laukikaha tarkikascha vagacchante mayaya uchitam hitat. It is Sat which appears as Akasha, but ordinary people and the logicians say that existence is a property of Akasha. This is only to be expected, for Maya is the conjurer.
Yes. So the philosophers say that space has existence as a property. And what the Urania is saying is actually the existence of space has been borrowed from Sat. Now, let me boil this down into something very, very profound. So in the white heat of meditation, with the attention introverted, when you notice the knower, you do not see, hear, taste, touch, smell, emote, or think yourself, yet you know you are. We've talked so many times about how yourself is self-evident, Swayambhu, self-luminous, Swayambhu. Now, look at some object across the room. I see the pillow on the sofa. That is still the self-evidence of Brahman. Play with that. There is no other knowing other than the self-evidence of Brahman. There's that direct, subjective, I know I am. And then there's the knowing of the phenomenal world, but it's still Brahman knowing Brahman. It only seems to be other. It's not. Just as in the dream you have a dream body and you look out and you see a dream world. It seems other. But it's not. It's your one unified mind. This is the deepest part of the teaching here. There's nothing else going on but the self-evidence of God. Next verse. How many more in this chapter? This is a gnarly chapter.
Quite a few.
Okay, we'll make our way.
Yadyatha vartate tasya tathatvam bhati manatah anyathatvam brahmeneti jnanyoyam sarvalaukikah. It is common knowledge that correct understanding makes a thing appear as it is in itself, and illusion makes it appear differently.
So, if I truly understand what's there, I can see what it is in the world. If I have a misunderstanding, I think it's something else. If I'm in a deluded state, I am fearful of getting on the BART train. Oh, look, the tracks meet in the distance. The train's going to crash. But proper understanding, it looks like that. But that's called a vanishing point because of a sense of perspective. They're actually parallel, just like they are right in front of you. Oh, okay, it just looks like they meet in the difference. Proper understanding. So, with wrong understanding, I think the world of name and form is separate from me. I think my ego is real. I think my body is who I am. And that world out there, it gives me annoyance and joy. Like, whoop, no. It's all right. Next verse.
एवं श्रुतिविचारात् प्राग्यथा यद् वस्तु भासते विचारेण विपर्येति ततस्त चिन्यतां वियत्. A thing appears to be quite different after a thorough discussion of the Vedic passage concerned from what it appeared before such a discussion. So let us now discuss the nature of Akasha.
Yes. So when we send our minds along the proper directions of rational thinking, we come to understand and see things differently. Clearest example, come in and I assume I am my body. And we study Viveka Chudamani, and we have that long section of the negation of the five koshas. I'm not the body, I'm not the prana, not the mind, I'm not the thoughts, not the bliss sheath. Oh, I'm the witness. But it's through a proper understanding, rooted in my experience of examining what's going on, based on what the scriptures have suggested. It brings them to a different experience, a different understanding. All right, so he's starting a discussion on Akasha now.
Mhm.
I think we'll end a little early tonight. I don't want to just start on it and then quit. And what verse are we on for next week?
67.
67. We'll end here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari